Welcome everybody, it's the Gary Neville podcast. We're at Villa Park and Manchester United, Gary, have just come away from here with a victory that means an awful lot.
Oh yeah, it's a huge victory. I thought with 10, 15 minutes to go when the both substitutions were made and the way the game was sort of drifting, there was a lull. I thought that it was as if both managers had sent a message on to their teams that they were happy with 1-1. Unai Emery, there was a ferocious running up and down the line before Manchester United scored because he knew full well it was getting too simple, but McTominay's popped up and that puts real pressure on Villa. Villa have been outstanding this season. They have wobbled in the last few weeks, and the two games against Manchester United will have taken a lot out of them because they were brilliant in that first half at Old Trafford, and then obviously United came back and produced, I think, the best 45 minutes of the season, the most intense 45 minutes of the season, and from that point, Villa have just fallen below their standards, but Manchester United have got better and better, and it's a little ominous that Manchester United are just starting to hit the strides a little bit. Look, Unai Emery, I've got so much respect for Unai Emery as a manager. I think he's one of the great European managers, but I was really surprised at the time when Leon Bailey came off. He was over there against Lindelof. I wouldn't say he was ripping Lindelof to shreds, but he was causing real problems. And Diaby was just like a little sort of butterfly in that number 10 role, a bit more agile than maybe McGinn was, and a bit more difficult to pick up, and a bit more unpredictable. And I felt as though they were really they just scored the goal. And I was thinking, why change it? And he went more solid. He brought Tielemans on, put McGinn back up into the number 10 role, took Bailey off and put Diaby wide. I just thought from that point, Villa just lost the impetus of Manchester United, let Manchester United off the hook a little bit. When you're playing against Varane, Maguire and Lindelof, you need quick players in and around them. McGinn's a really good player, but when you've got the likes of Diaby and Bailey and you've got Watkins, obviously Ramsey on this side, the more players like that you have on the pitch, the more difficult it is for those players. United was struggling without Shaw. We saw in that sort of graphic that came up that Villa had about 45% or over 40% of their attacks down that Manchester United left side. So I just felt sometimes, great managers, like all managers, their skill is in making substitutions, interfering with the game. And I even thought from Manchester United's perspective, it was, Rashford going off was a surprise. I thought United had to win, but he has got faith in McTominay, Eric Ten Hag, to go and get him a goal, and he has done. It was a beautiful cross by Dalot. Dalot, I want to talk a little bit about Dalot, and I'll go back onto the game in a minute, because Dalot's someone that people say about the right back for the future for Manchester United. They may have the right back for the future there. There's a lot there. He's 6 foot, he's strong, he's powerful, he's good on the ball. He's not a bad defender. I think he defends his back post really well. He opens up his shoulders. I think if he can start playing in a really confident back four and settled back four, Manchester United, there was a horrific statistic before the game that I saw that, was it something like 16 or 17 or 18, like partnerships or back fours or whatever it was.
Oh, the back fours are more than that. The centre-halves are 13, so if you had the full-backs in...
It's all over the place. And Dalot, to be fair to him, none of them, they're never in a settled back four from game to game, half to half. Shaw goes off, Martinez last week. It's always changing. And he's never really got a constant presence outside him on that right-hand side. I had that for years where I could build a relationship. So Dalot, I think, is someone that you talk about sort of like, could he be the one that you think, well, give him that shot. He is getting that shot at the moment, but I wouldn't be too quickly looking to change him. I think he's something to work with. Is he the best in the world? No. But has he got the potential to be, and he's delivering at the moment, has he got the potential to be a top fullback? Yes. But going back to the game, it's a huge 3 points for Manchester United. At the end of the game, they went over to celebrate with the fans. There was a fierceness in there, there was a feeling in that sort of, that face, that was one of them. That's an important one. Not that they'll get carried away. They've had ups and downs all season. This is not the sort of, if you like, Manchester United are great again. It's not. They could easily go and get beat at Luton next Sunday. And Villa have got a few games coming up that I could think are quite friendly. So, it could be that they're back down to 8 and 10 points or 11 points in a few weeks. But my feeling is that Manchester United have just got that little bit of a bit between their teeth. And Villa have just got to recover themselves and get themselves right. It's important they recover from this today.
Yeah, I mean, you chose to speak about Aston Villa first, actually, which I thought was really interesting because they did have a wonderful momentum. And it struck me before the game, actually, that with a few players coming back, they've got a deep squad. They had on the bench Tielemans, Digne, Pau Torres, who didn't get a kick, Diaby, who did come on, Zaniolo, who came on late. Do you get a sense that, especially under Unai Emery, who've spoken so warmly about, they have the capacity to recover from this, or is this loss of momentum really going to damage them longer term?
No, they've got the right manager. They've got a good squad. If they can see it as that in a season of 38 matches, you're always going to have a dip. If they can see it as that, and that this is the dip, and we were always going to have a dip, and that actually it's not something that's set in for the rest of the season, they'll be okay. They could still finish in the top 4, top 5. But they've got to recover quickly. They've got to get back on the bike. They've got to make sure that they any sort of lingering doubts that they may have out of this period and these losses against Manchester United in the last 6 to 8 weeks, that will be something that will test them in the next week. And that's where great managers, they've got a great manager in Unai Emery, sort of really earns his mettle and can really step up and get this squad right. Because you've mentioned it's a strong squad. They've had a great season so far. And look, every time I watch Manchester United play, even when they win a game like today, and by the way, they don't win many games. They've not won any games against top teams, have they? So this is actually quite a unique day for Manchester United. They're still not usually the best team. Villa were still the best football team out there. Villa still had the best patterns, the best combinations. But Manchester United, they are better than they were. They're getting stronger. They have people who can deliver in the final third. And defensively, they're better than they were as well. Obviously, a few weeks ago, they've got some players back. So losing Shaw today was a blow. So I think, look, for Villa, they've got a real test in the next week or two, but they've got some fixtures coming up that are quite friendly. I think they've got a big game also against Tottenham in about 3-4 weeks' time. So, look, there's plenty to play for. It's not doom and gloom for Villa, but today will just be a real dig in the ribs for them.
And appreciating that you quite rightly don't want to get carried away on behalf of Manchester United over the last decade so many times. Is this the corner being turned? Is this the corner being turned? Actually, the narrative for storytellers like me is that game on Boxing Day against Villa, the turnaround happened in the week that Jim Ratcliffe arrived, and this is the long-term turnaround. And since then, actually, it's gone very well, bar one awful day at Nottingham Forest. Since the turn of the calendar year, Manchester United haven't lost a game. They've won 3 in a row in the Premier League. To what extent are you prepared to allow yourself to think, hang on, maybe they're going somewhere now?
Well, look, there's no doubt there is a microscope on every single person within the club, on and off the pitch. Jim Ratcliffe and his team are going to be going in there. I'm not saying notepads out as they're walking around, but they're going to be looking at every single facet of that club, particularly on the football side and the performance side, and working out what August looks like. What does season 24-25 look like for Manchester United? They're not going to write this season off because there's so much to play for. Champions League football, and I hate to bring it back to money, is a phenomenal... It's a rocket into space for Aston Villa in terms of sort of increases in revenue. For Manchester United, who are on the edge of FFP, as a lot of clubs are, and we've seen in the January transfer window, it's gone dormant. Champions League football is the difference between sort of an extra 50-60 million pounds in your bank. That's huge when it comes to the transfer window. So it's enormous for these players at United, for the staff, the coaching staff, the people off the pitch, that this season ends well. And the microscope is on every single player, every single member of the coaching team, every single member of the performance and medical, every single facet of the club. And they're all going to want to deliver. They're all under pressure, and they're stepping up a little bit. There's no doubt there's a better feeling. There is there's a bit greater seriousness. Feels like they're getting their players back, which obviously was a problem for Erik ten Hag. So they're in with a shout of finishing the season well, but they're going to have to finish the season well. And I think they're going to have to finish above Aston Villa. I think before the game we said there's a 77% chance that 5th place will deliver a Champions League space. Now, 5th place is not a success for Manchester United, but it would still be a stepping stone back into the Champions League for that revenue, to improve the squad, to get more business done. And for Villa, it would be unbelievable. One, as a football and sporting achievement, but also from a financial perspective for the owners, and Unai Emery will be able to invest next season. So it's massive, this next 12 games. It really is. But you're right, that the change around seems to have coincided with Jim Ratcliffe's announcement. The club needed something, and most of all, I've spoken about it so many times, it needed a change up top. Culturally, just that shift. There's obviously a new CEO's already been appointed. Further changes will be made. I'm absolutely certain of that. But the big question will be at the end of the season, which does the manager remain? Do the players remain? They'll be the big sort of test. And I think those decisions will be those won't be determined yet. I think there'll be a lot to sort of look at. And Erik ten Hag had a very good first season. He's had a lot of injuries to contend with in the first part of this season. If he can finish 4th fifth, get into Champions League football, he has got a very good chance of obviously retaining his position and that continuity and stability that obviously, a successful club would need.
Yeah, just to finish off what you were saying, Villa go to Fulham next week and then have a home game against Nottingham Forest, so points potentially available there. And as we know, Manchester United go to Luton next week, which is a whole new experience.
Yeah, it'll be an amazing day. What an amazing day. I'm looking forward to it. The idea that sort of Luton Town, I've been there once already this season, I've been there before. Host Manchester United on a Super Sundays. That's dreamland stuff. We still want to retain that element of the English pyramid where teams can go from League Two right the way through into the top tier and sort of have these great days. Yeah, look, it's going to be fantastic. Manchester United today, I think they played pretty well. It wasn't a great performance by any stretch of the imagination, but they were determined. There was no suggestion that, in previous games in the season, we've looked at them and thought, what the hell's going on? It looks like they are a lot more solid as a unit, like they are a lot more determined. Still some frustrating things. Villa will kick themselves for the chances that they missed. But United were good on set pieces today. I gave Maguire man of the match because I think his defensive performance was good, but his aerial prowess in the first half was big in Manchester United going in front.
So, Arsenal, wow.
Yeah. I mean, look, I had Arsenal as champions at the start of the season. Not many did. I still think City at this moment in time look ominous. But Arsenal, I want Arsenal to do it. Because for obvious reasons, I want Liverpool to win. As much as it would be a fairy tale for Jurgen Klopp and what that would mean, and in terms of sort of for Liverpool and him, but I just think with what Arsenal did last season, where they sort of just crumbled at the end, I'd like to see them this season sort of start the season slowly, be a bit scruffy, pick points up, being in amongst it, but then really hit their form in the final furlong, and that's where you need to hit their form. Last year, their legs went and their performances went in the last 10 games. We're getting to that point in the next few weeks. And I thought there was a lot of jokes made this week about over-celebrating. There's a lot of conversation had about over-celebrating, but it's a really serious topic. It's a really serious topic. I made a lot of points last year in the running about how emotion, passion can sap energy, particularly if you're just a little bit too enthusiastic. And that sounds absolutely crazy, but look it up. Look it up from a point of view. Speak to someone who's qualified in these things. If you just use up too much emotion, too much enthusiasm, and you sort of overhyped and you've ramped up those anxiety and those enthusiasm, excitement levels, you do sap energy from your body. And Arsenal last season, and there were moments that I pointed towards that maybe look a little bit fickle, where they've won against Bournemouth at home, I think 10, 12 games out, and Zinchenko is screaming at the fans an hour and 20 minutes after kickoff, going out in his car. No doubt, your fans are there, wave, well done today. But if you're using up that level of emotion, imagine what we're not seeing. Imagine the emotion we're not seeing. Obviously we're only get a glimpse, but you can read into the impact of that real sort of heightened feeling. Just be controlled, because they've got a real chance, Arsenal. They've got a really good team. The manager's done a great job. The back four are solid. Their midfield looks strong. They've got exciting front players who haven't really hit their form this season, but if they can start to hit the form like it looks like they're doing now, they are such a threat. And I feel like if they can just have that sort of that, when they win a game, score a goal, celebrate for your life. But when you win the game at the end today, that fierce determination, one down, 12 to go, and just keep that control, keep that what would be controlled position of knowing that the job's not done. Because I think they've got a chance. They've got a chance, but they have to make sure they manage this last 2-3 months of the season really well and focus on the job. And it looks like they've gone to a really good start to that run-in.
Well, and they backed it up, Gary, didn't they? Because last week, around all the celebrations, they'd just beaten Liverpool, and there are plenty of people who would say to you, listen, we'll party as much as we like. We beat Liverpool. That's the argument. That's the conversation, and you've just put your point well. But what they can now say to you and everybody is, we backed it up. West Ham have beaten them twice this season in League and League Cup. They went to what could have been a really difficult game, and they won the flipping thing 6-0. I mean, that is putting it on the table, isn't it?
Absolutely. That's what everybody wanted to see today. I came up here early with you, And partly because I wanted to get through before the fans got in, because it's a bit of a sort of assault course to get up here at Villa. But partly because I wanted to watch the game, I wanted to watch them, I wanted to see how they performed. I'm really interested in them because of sort of just the fact that I think they are the team that are closest to City. You know, Liverpool are right up there. They've got a great manager, but I think Arsenal, when I watch them, I feel they're a better team. That's not to say they'll go on and win the league or they'll finish above Liverpool, but I think they've got it within themselves. And there's so much energy in that club. There's so much passion in that club, and that's great. But now they're entering into a run-in. And what Arsenal are not, I think of it as boxers. When you think of sort of the likes of, say, Floyd Mayweather or Muhammad Ali, who used to call it on, and they used to have that sort of enthusiasm, that sort of, they were so great they could do it. I don't think Arsenal are in that position to be sort of like that in terms of in your face. I think they've got to be that sort of almost like, it's helped them, the fact that there's not been that pressure on, that they've not been in front, that there's not been that expectation. I think the fact that they're 2 points off the top of the league and they're just in the pack is good. Sit there, and then pounce at the end. And it's too late then. You can go. I think that's how they're probably going to win the league. I never thought last year they were ever going to run away with it. At any point, you know, I called it all the way through. I just never thought that they were always going to drop points. And I thought they'd always, the young players' legs would go. But this season, I feel that they can. They've got more control. I think the back four's good. The back four's good. The midfield's good. The front players, maybe if they start to hit the form, they're good. And I want them, I'm feeling it for them a little bit, because I want them to go the extra mile, because to break, you know, for Arteta, a young manager, to break Klopp and Guardiola is huge for this league. That's what we want. We want disruption. You know, Manchester City have been incredible. Guardiola's a genius. Klopp's been the best manager that I've seen in the last 6 years because of what he's had to do against Guardiola with the resources that he's had. But for Arteta to drive through the middle of them is monumental. So, look, we'll see what happens in the next 10 to 12 games. I can't wait for the next 3 months. I really can't. But I want controlled emotion. I want them to be determined. I want them to know their jobs. I want them to know there's a long way to go. And all those things that they sort of experienced last year, calm.
There we are. We'll leave it there. Brilliant, Gary. So, all the big boys won this weekend, except they would claim themselves big boys. Yeah. Aston Villa, of course. The title race goes on. That's fantastic. You'll hear Gary tomorrow on Palace Chelsea.
Yep.
And then Super Sunday next week takes us to Luton Man United, which will be a lot of fun. Thank
Brilliant.
you, Gary.
Thank you, Peter.
Cheers.